Welcome to She Rebel Radio, the podcast for high-performing women leaders who want to unlearn conventional rules, leave prestigious careers, and launch businesses of significance. Each week, She Rebel Radio brings you insights and advice from women entrepreneurs who transformed their prestige prisons into daring entrepreneurial success stories. Now, here is your host, Lulu Nins.
Welcome to episode 55 of She Rebel Radio, Success as a Feminine-Based Principle. Welcome, ladies. It is She Rebel Friday, and can you believe the time has come already for the final episode of our She Rebel Radio Summer Series, where we have had 4 parts of the series empowering you to emerge from lockdown and power forward in only the way that you can do. We've had 4 solo shows diving into the consequences of treading water and solutions to doing so. We then looked into the external fix and unfulfilling destinations before diving into the internal work and becoming your own muse, which leads to a far more fulfilling destination. And we wrap up this 4-part mini-series diving into success as a feminine-based principle. And this episode is really about what success means for you personally. And we're going to explore the polarity of masculine and feminine-based principles, which is a big part of the work that I do with my clients and big part of the work that I teach, and how this ties in with the differences between achievement versus success, and why it is that we're shifting into a more feminine redefining of the path to achieving and redesigning success your way on your terms. I'm all about that. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this episode, which is going to support you to emerge from lockdown and power forward in only the way that you can do. So this morning I actually took my car to be cleaned, and I had a really beautiful morning walking along the beach with my feet in the sand. I'd made myself some overnight oats last night with some fruit that I'd picked from the day before, and had a really slow, gentle start to the morning. And it was a very feminine, beautiful start to the day, and one that I didn't have the privilege of experiencing in my role as a criminal defence lawyer, litigator for 11 years. It didn't occur to me that success could be something so simple as that, to start my morning as if I was on holiday. And I'm actually on holiday as we speak, but not at the time of recording this. And that was my daily experience. That I'm known to say that no one messes with my yoga schedule. I practice either yoga daily, meditation daily, walks on the beach daily, and preferably all 3. It more often than not is my daily experience. And that to me is huge success. That to me, running a business, creating the same similar income to my role as a lawyer, doing less work, being more present, being more in my feminine energy is success to me. It may not be to you, but it is to me. And I feel like if you're listening to She Rebel Radio, it will be to many of you. And that is why you're listening, because there is a real calling and desire for you to have success in a way that is more feminine based, and that you can lead your life that way. So this is what we're going to talk about today. And I want to dive into, before we talk about success versus achievement, or success and achievement, what I want to do is introduce you or deepen your understanding of the law of polarity. And the law of polarity is that with everything in the universe, in the world, there are extremes. There are 2 polar opposite extremes. We see that in the political world, but I always say this is not a political podcast. This is one which encourages more conscious awareness and leading from that place. But there are 2 extremes in everything, everywhere we go. That is the law of polarity. There's hot, cold, on, off, up, down, male, female, cold, hot, sun, moon, the law of polarity, the law of opposites. And those law of opposites, there is a spectrum from that extreme of that opposite right to the opposite side, and everything in between. Everything in between that spectrum. And from my perspective, and I have a whole course called the 24 Principles to Feminine Success, these extremes of everything broadly fall into masculine-based principles and feminine-based principles. And when I say that, I mean masculine-based energy, feminine-based energy. We are all made up of masculine and feminine-based energy. The whole universe is made of masculine and feminine-based energy. Yet we live in a world that, through patriarchal systems and structures, the reason we have those patriarchal systems and structures is that we value everything on the masculine side of the polarity over the things on the feminine side of that polarity. And honestly, undertake my course, 24 Principles to Feminine Success, and you will understand this at such a deep, deep level. And those of you that practice yoga, we've got the yang yoga, the yin yoga, the works of Tao, which is spelled as Tao, which is Chinese, which talks about these polarities, these opposites, the yin, the yang. And the reason I really want to share this with you today, because as we dived into last week, becoming your own muse, a woman becoming her own muse, what is inevitably going to follow from that is you're going to want to create success from a very feminine-based place. And in order to do that, you need to know what that feminine-based place is. And in order for me to illustrate this to you, because everything I teach and work with my clients is very much about practice and not perfection. It's about trusting, and this in itself is a feminine-based principle, is about trusting you're going to hear and understand what it is that you need to hear and understand on a particular day at a particular time. But you quite likely, if you're from a position of prestige, as many women are, that not all listening to this podcast, but that is who this podcast is mostly designed for. But if that's not you, that's fine. Please carry on listening. Is that you will tend to go down the route of, and this is why you are likely to have found yourself in an unfulfilled destination, either now or in the past, and you're moving out of that, or you're trying to move out of that, is because you valued the masculine-based principles over the feminine-based principles. And the masculine-based principles for today's purpose is you valued achievement over success, which are two very different things. They are two extremes on opposite sides of the polarity, and there's a spectrum that runs in between that. And if you go to either extreme, what you do is tend to become very exhausted. That's whether you're at the masculine side of things, which is the achievement, okay, or the success side of things, which I'm putting to you today, the case I'm putting to you today, is the feminine-based principle, which we need because we've been so over in the achievement and the high achievement. We need to move down the spectrum more towards actually success and what that means. And to highlight the point, I'm going to note the book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why. And when I was really on this feminine journey, actually, I read Start With Why, and it didn't resonate so much with me because most of the leaders, how great leaders inspire everyone to take action, are men and are masculine and have very masculine-based businesses. And I was desperately, we're talking about the guy, I can't remember his full name, the owner of Walmart, who was also recently, not him because he's died now, and, the CEOs that have taken over who've also been potentially thrown into, selling weapons in the UK, in the US, being part of, making money out of the criminal justice system, and the Black Lives Matter movement, and black people being criminalized in the UK. That's my history in terms of criminal defense. This is nothing new to me, and that's all very masculine based, and also what's his name? The owner of Apple. The other leaders, Steve Jobs. You've got, who else? Who's the one of Microsoft? Come on, someone help me out here. Bill Gates. It's all these guys that very much are successful, in inverted commas, but it's very, very high levels of achievement and very masculine based energy. And I've really struggled to feel inspired by that when I was coming out of my position of prestige, my degree of, high achievement, etc. I'm not comparing myself to Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, by the way, now or then, but I couldn't really resonate. So it's a very masculine based business, and not a lot of women mentioned in this book. And I'm always reading with that feminine lens. But what really inspired me when I reread it recently, again, trusting that you take what you need from it at that time, is it resonated much more with me because I was much further down the line in terms of business, personal development and that kind of stuff. But he talks about in here, and immediately, and this is what the feminine based principles really teach you. You can see things with the feminine filter. Is he says on page 181, which is when the why goes fuzzy, and talks about achievement versus success. And this is what he says. Achievement is something you reach or attain like a goal. It is something tangible, clearly defined and measurable. So we all know SMART goals, in the coaching world, and I'm trying to remember all the parts of it now, that they're measurable, they're tangible, all of that stuff. And I, in terms of the way that I coach and the way that I lead my business, I work much better with intentions, as do the vast majority of my clients who are very much on this success as a feminine based principle journey, because they've been in the extreme of the masculine stuff already, and they're desperately moving down the spectrum to more of the feminine based principle, which he describes in the book as this: success, in contrast, is a feeling or a state of being. She feels successful. She is successful, we say, using the verb to be to suggest the state of being. Feminine principle is being, masculine principle is doing. And we massively value the masculine principle of doing over being. We also massively value the masculine principle of achievement over the feminine principle of success and how we actually feel about our own success, which is a very subjective and personal journey for each of us. It's about the being, it's about the feeling. If we just stay, however, in the being and the feeling, and we have none of the masculine stuff in terms of the achievement to measure it, we lose that momentum of moving into that space. So it really is a delicate balance, because if we go into either of those two extremes too much, I feel like I'm sounding like Russell Brand today, then we get exhausted, because that exhaustion is so paramount with us being in the extreme of anything. It's about finding the balance, and it's about finding the middle of those two extremes. So I hope that is making great sense to you. It's about finding the secret of the middle way and the balance of those two things. And I feel like Arianna Huffington does really well with this in her book Thrive. It was one of the first ones I read, actually, when I left the legal profession. I wish I'd read it much earlier, which is called The Third Metric of Success. It's called Thrive, but the subtitle, if you like, is The Third Metric of, I'm wondering if I can just get the details of that 1 second. No, I can't. And she talks about success being around well-being, wisdom and wonder. Well-being, wisdom and wonder. And we've seen a big movement, and we've seen big momentum gathering with wellness, wisdom and wonder. And that is really the movement, because that's about how we're feeling. That's about how inspired we are, and how in awe of the world that we are, and how well we are feeling. It's all about the feminine stuff, right? That's what Thrive is about, and that is the shift that we're seeing. And Mayan culture, there was a real prediction that there was going to be the end of the world in December 2012. I think it was the 12th of the 12th of the 12th at 12 o'clock. But actually, the more spiritual meaning and deeper meaning of that interpretation, which Rebecca Campbell and Light This Is the New Black writes so well about, was actually the feminine rising. That was an indication of transformation and change and energetic shift into the feminine rising. And that feminine rising is going to see us redefining and redesigning success in a totally different way, and recognizing and having the conscious awareness that actually success isn't achievement. It's not about how much money you make. It's not about how much power you have. It's not about how much control that you have. It's not about how big your car is or your house is. That's all ego-based stuff. Whilst it's about how that stuff actually makes you feel. And if it feels empty, it's not worth having. And I talked about this actually when I bought, although my car's causing me no end of grief the past few weeks, and I wasn't supposed to still have it because I was supposed to be traveling. So I'm like, what's going on here? But I love that car. It's a blue Beetle Cabriolet, 1960s edition, limited edition. The roof's not working at the moment. Now discovered it's not really it's not locking either. But when I got that car, it wasn't about the fact that I had generated enough money through my business to buy this new car. It was secondhand anyway, because they don't make them anymore. But it was a real treat. I felt amazing driving it. And it wasn't about the car. It was about how the car made me feel. And it was about it being a huge part of my identity, and so many people say to me, oh my God, I can totally see you driving that car, or that's like you as a car. It's a nice like denim kind of baby blue car. It's it's and actually reading in Start With Why, it talks about Volkswagen, being power to the people, and the people's car, and they tried to do a real like luxury range and it really didn't work. And I'm not that kind of designer handbags kind of woman, and never have been. I think I went for a little phase of Fiorelli handbags as a lawyer, but it's all about how that car made me feel. And it was about, when I left my law firm before partnership, when it was given to my male counterpart, I think getting a car was part of the package, but it was a Mercedes or, one of those cars that mean absolutely nothing to me. So that would have been an accolade of success to other people, or a sign or symbol of my achievement, but it would have meant nothing to me as a feeling or to who I identify as being. So it wouldn't have meant anything. So it wasn't success at all. And I remember when I started in the law firm initially, there was a real, when we were all trainees in London, and there was quite a lot of us, and it was quite an abundant, profession to be in at that time before it all went downhill. And, there was almost a little bit of competition in terms of, I've been in the office since 5 a.m. and I've got this many cases and I'm so busy, and, all of that stuff and all that level of achievement. But it doesn't mean that person actually feels good about themselves or feels successful. It's all about how we can show that on the outside. So that's really, again, tied into the external fix. Okay. And it's not that those things don't matter. It's about how those things make you feel. So when you are looking at this for you, recognize success is a feminine-based principle. It's about, which I should add, Simon Sinek doesn't say that. That's my interpretation of it. Though he did use she when he was talking about success. So I think it's there bubbling away underneath. But when you're redesigning success, is recognizing it's a feminine-based principle, and that is the journey that you are on, and checking in with how these things are going to make you feel. Because when you start there and you set intentions around that stuff, then the achievement pieces, the markers of that, come in underneath it. It's about moving out of the achievement, the more ego-based stuff, and going into, as we talked about last week, becoming your own muse, the subject you know best, the subject you want to know more of. Your desires deepen massively, as do your feelings that are attached to them when you achieve those things. And that, ladies, is why success is a feminine based principle. So recognize that and create success from that place. That will create the real true fulfillment, more meaning and significance that you are looking for. And if you would like my help, I would highly recommend the 24 Principles to Feminine Success self-study course, which you can find at lulumins.com/feminine. It is also available to you with 2 high-level coaching sessions, and the course itself, the self-study, is for 6 months, so it builds layer upon layer of your understanding of these masculine and feminine based principles. You learn 24 of each and really learn to navigate yourself instead of being at the extremes of either of those, in finding your middle point and your middle ground, which is where the balance and the harmony comes in of creating success and achievement on your terms. So do check that out. Always email me if you've got any questions about it. And this has been such an amazing 4 weeks in supporting you with 4 solo shows, the She Rebel Radio Summer Series. I think we'll do it every summer, as we do 30 days of She Rebel Radio in March, and we had the Self-Actualized Women Series. It's been really great to support you emerging from lockdown and powering forward in only the way that you can do. We're going to be taking a really short break in August. My intention is that there are not going to be any episodes in August, but keep an eye. We will be back the first week in September with some incredible new guests, with some incredible new solo shows, with a very special course that is coming from me as a collaboration, really working with women on this self-expression piece, particularly women within their own businesses. So loads of incredible stuff coming in September. I'm just going to practice what I preach, take a little step back, have a little period of contraction. Again, a feminine-based principle, which is our key to expansion, and to, really sit and celebrate this first year on She Rebel Radio. Almost, we're about 10 months in, but we did some extra episodes over the pandemic period. It's been very intense energetically, and I am just going to be doing a little bit of that internal work and that, redefining, redesigning, and really coming back with more power than before. So I will see you in September. Please continue to listen. Take this time to catch up on some of the episodes that you've missed. I know many of you listen back to episodes and take notes and all of that kind of stuff. And we are going to be back She Rebelling it up in September and creating some amazing new content and new twists for you. So stay tuned. Have an amazing rest of the day and really enjoy August. And I will speak to you very soon.
Thanks for listening to She Rebel Radio, the podcast for high-performing women leaders who want to unlearn conventional rules, leave prestigious careers, and launch businesses of significance. She Rebel Radio is executive produced and hosted by women's advocate and coach, Lulu Mins. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss another episode. You can find Lulu Mins on Facebook and LinkedIn at Lulu Mins, and on Instagram at LuluMins_biz. Until next week, keep rebelling against the rules and designing success your way.